Good morning, traders. This is another live day trading video for the small cap day trading plan. We are taking 100 trades to test the plan to see if it is profitable. We've taken 90 so far. We've only got 10 left to do. And I've got my screener open on my laptop. I'll show you that in just a moment. Right now, CGEM is on the screener, but it does not meet the daily chart criteria. So we have to ignore it. Even though it's up 19%, it does not meet our strategy. And other than that, there is nothing else on the screener. Let me just refresh it. Actually, I'm going to show you the screener right here on the desktop. So there you see CGEM. That's the one that we just looked at. And other than that, there's not much else. SWIR meets our percent change requirement, but does not meet the volume requirement of 500,000 shares or more. It is only 3 minutes after the open, so that could change. There's definitely going to be other stocks that'll pop up, I'm sure. But for now, this is what we got, and we've already looked at the stocks, the individual stock that is meeting our screener criteria. So we're just going to mute for now and keep an eye on the screener, and I'll be back as soon as there's something that pops up. So I just refreshed the screener there on the desktop because I'm looking at my laptop and I wasn't seeing the same stocks up here, and that happens. That's why you got to refresh these screeners, especially near the open, because there's new stocks that are popping up on the screener all the time, and they're not going to automatically appear on the screen. You have to refresh the screener. So the easiest thing to do is to go over to your screeners that are saved, click on the three little dots, click modify, and that will refresh everything and should update the screener. So still just CGEM, and VTNR is meeting our volume requirement, but not quite meeting our percent change requirement. So it has a little bit of work to do before we can even really look at it and see if it meets the daily chart criteria. It's getting up over, maybe once it gets over 3, I'll look at it just to see if we can reject it and see where we go from there. ABCL is also climbing in volume and holding this 2.5% change, but it's still got a ways to go before it gets over 5. And Fold may get there as well. So I think we looked at that one yesterday, but we'll see. I believe it was well under the 200 MA on the daily chart. So since Fold is so close to that 5% threshold, and I'm sure in time it will get over the 500,000 shares of volume, I'm just going to take a look at it since I'm unmuted right now. It gives us something to do. But obviously we can't take a trade on it. So let's go to the charts page and pull it up. So yeah, it's below the 200 MA, so we can't look at it. That does not meet our daily chart criteria. So back to the screener. Let's go ahead and give it a refresh. Yep, so still the same stuff. So I'm going to mute for now, and we'll be back in just a moment. So we're going to take a look at ABCL. It does meet our volume requirement, but it has a ways to go to meet our percent change requirement. We're just going to look to see if it's something we need to pay attention to or we can reject because of the daily chart. So let's pull that up on the chart page right now, ABCL. So yeah, that one is also below the 200 MA on the daily. This is a common theme lately. Again, when I say lately, I mean for 2022, for the entire year. A lot of stocks are trading below their 200 MA on the daily because everything has been selling off. The market has been selling off for a long time. So here is the beginning of 2022 on the SPY, which is an ETF that tracks the S&P 500, and you can see that overall we are in a downtrend since then. So it makes sense that all these stocks, not to say that all of these are S&P 500 stocks, that's not the case, but the S&P 500 is just a good indicator of how the overall market is doing. There are some stocks that will trade against that trend, and that's what we're looking for right now. So anyway, it is what it is, and we just have to be patient and wait for the stocks that meet our criteria and meet our strategy before we take a trade. So let's go back to the screener now and update it, and we'll just keep an eye out for anything else. At least now we know we don't have to keep our eyes on ABCL and FOLD. We just let those things do whatever they want. Same with CGEM. So yeah, let's take a look real quick, see if there's anything else. So here's Fold now is up 6%, but we've already checked that one and rejected it because of the daily chart. And that's it for now. So again, we're going to mute and just wait to see if something else pops up. And I'll be back as soon as there's something interesting. All right, just to give me something to do, we're going to look at our DFN. Again, it's below the percent change threshold, but it's getting close and it may be a contender. There we go, it's up to 4. Now we need to see 5. So let's take a look at the chart and see how it looks on the daily chart. All right, so another one below the 200 MA. It's frustrating, yes, but we have to stick to the plan. We have to stick to the strategy, even if we end up a 4th no trade day. It is kind of boring. It is kind of frustrating, but the trader discipline is the most important thing for a day trader. Absolutely. All right, so back to the screener and just patience. That's all we can do. Give it a refresh here. So STKL, you see down here, has a nice percent change, but it doesn't quite meet our volume requirement. It does meet the 500,000 shares, obviously, but you see how low it is on my on the desktop screen here, which is what you can see, and it just dropped out even below that. One of my criteria, if you've been watching my videos, you already know this, is that it must be on the first page of my screener on my laptop, right? The laptop is what I keep open all the time. That's what I use for screening. This I just have up right now for you guys. And my trading plan says that if the stock isn't on the first page of my screener, then I ignore it. And the reason for that is because that tells me the relative volume relative to the other stocks, not relative to itself, but the relative volume that the stock is trading with compared to these other stocks on the small cap screener. And if I look at my screener, which obviously you can't see, the lowest stock I have looks like, yeah, I think SI or SL. You're seeing it right here. And that is, let's count it real quick here. That is the 22nd stock on the very first page. So if what I'm trading is not at least in the top 22 of stocks that are trading in the small cap sector volume wise, then I shouldn't be interested in trading that. That's just not enough volume. There's a reason why there's not more people trading it. So I don't want to jump into some stock that is low on the screener but just has a high percent change. There's no liquidity there. There's no reason for it to kind of move in a predictable way or anything like that. So that's why we ignore those stocks. Doesn't mean that you can't get lucky once in a while and grab one of these stocks down here that is up 12% or something like that and possibly have a good trade, but it's just not something that you could do consistently. And if you get in the habit of scrolling down through the screener and just looking for anything, it's very likely that you get kind of tricked into watching one of these stocks, and then in the meantime you miss something that's moving with real volume. So that's the reason why we just keep looking at stocks that are on the first page. That's 22 stocks is plenty stocks to be looking at each day. So anyway, just a little explanation about that. So again, for now, I'm just going to refresh it one last time and then mute, and we'll just keep our eyes on the screener, see if anything that meets our criteria pops up. Let me just check it real quick just to make sure that there's nothing new. All right, so we're good for now. So we're going to mute, and I'll be back when there is something interesting. All right, guys, just a little update. We are about 35 minutes into the market open. Let's refresh the screener, and you're going to see that really nothing has changed, unfortunately. It looks to be another boring day in the small cap market. We have CGEM at the top there. We checked that, rejected because of the daily chart. Same thing with AVCL and Fold and RDFN as well. So, and that's pretty much it. The bottom of my screener on my laptop is IPOF. So we're just looking at stocks from there up. And yes, the volume requirements are met. Some of the percent changes are met, but the daily chart criteria is not met. Therefore, we cannot take a trade or even watch any of these stocks to look for trade possibilities. So a small cap could pop up at any time and get ready to trigger us for a trade, but that doesn't necessarily have to happen either. So SPCE is another one, and I know this thing is down hard on the daily chart because it has been for quite a while. So, but we can pull that up just to see that, just to confirm that, since we're unmuted here, and gives us something to do because it does meet the daily volume requirement and it's very close to meeting our percent change requirement. So let's look at that on the chart and we'll see how it looks. So there's our DFN, obviously below the 200 MA on the daily. Let's take a look at SPCE. Same thing there. It's nowhere near the 200 MA on the daily chart, so we have to ignore it. This is obviously an overall downtrend. So this thing's been trending down since about June. Well, officially since August of 2021, it's been trading underneath that 200 MA. So it's been in a downtrend for quite a while. Any long trades, long meaning that you place a trade with the intention of the price going up, would be obviously against the trend because the long-term trend is down. So we don't do that. We just wait for a stock that is trending up. We can look at the SPY just as an example, not this area obviously, but just pretend that it's back here somewhere. Then obviously we are in a long-term uptrend, and those are the type of, this is not a stock, this is an ETF, but those are the type of stocks we're looking for that have a long-term uptrend on the daily chart. So anyway, back to the screener, and just have to exercise patience and discipline. So let's refresh it one last time, and then we're going to mute. We do have until 10:30 for something to pop up on the screener, but if it doesn't, it doesn't, and that's just the way it goes. And we just have to come back tomorrow, and at least we haven't taken any trades and risked our capital. So anyway, let's just scroll through real quick and see, make sure there's nothing. So here's BLDP, which is new. That one just popped up. This one could be tricky because I can already see the market cap. It's I'm not sure how much this is going to change throughout the day. With a $6 price, it's probably not going to change very much. So this one may be a contender if the percent change gets up over where we need it. Other than that, we also have VTNR. I'm not sure if we looked at that on the daily chart. I don't think we did. We can check that one out, even though it does not meet our percent change threshold. But again, just to have something to do and to know if we need to ignore that in the future if the percent change does increase. So let's look at BLDP and VTNR. So BLDP also below the 200 MA. So we have to reject that. VTNR, I don't remember what that one looks like. Okay, that one is above the 200 MA, so it could be a contender, but we do need to see the percent change increase quite a bit. I'm looking at it on my laptop, and it's at 2.8%, so it's only about a little more than halfway there. But let's get rid of this yellow line for now, and let's see what it did in the pre-market. I like to use the 5-minute chart. So it didn't do much in the pre-market, and it's already broken out over its previous day high. So if this thing has already given us a setup, we have to reject it because it happened before it broke out over that 5% change. All right, so it does look like it has the potential to, well, let's look at the 1-minute chart real quick before I say too much here. And first of all, yeah, so that high is 1097, so we've got that line in place. Let's look at the 1-minute chart. and see what happened here. All right, so it broke out and made a first high of day after passing through its previous high of 1123 here. And since then, it's just been selling off. So what it would need to do is to get back over that high, make another high, pull back, and then it could trigger a trade so long as it's above 5% when that happens. So let's put this line out here arbitrarily. In the meantime, I'm going to refresh the screener on my laptop and just give it one more look. All right, PACB just popped up, so let's have a look at that. On the daily first. So that's in a long-term downtrend, so we have to ignore it. We cannot look for a trade on PACB, so we're going to get rid of it for now, or indefinitely, I mean. And see here, anything else? I'm just looking at my screener on the laptop. Take a look at HIMX. It is trading with some decent volume. It hasn't quite met our percent change requirement, but we can just see if it can be rejected. Yes, it can. So it's also trading below the 200 MA, so we're not going to have to worry about that one. And then there's FSLY, which is very close to meeting our percent change requirement, does meet our volume requirement. But again, trading below the 200 MA. And again, that's going to be kind of the common theme because the market overall is selling off. So stocks, even that are not in the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ, are going to follow that trend, that overall trend in general. And we're just looking for one that's kind of breaking out against that trend. But it makes sense that right now those type of stocks, the stocks that are moving up, are harder and harder to come by because the overall market is in a downtrend. So this is just the way it's going to be until things change. So I'm just looking at the screener one last time here before we mute. JMIA has popped up, and that meets all of our screener requirements, but again does not meet the daily chart criteria. I'm just looking at the screener one more time because now we're getting a lot of things popping up that we weren't seeing before. So I want to be very careful that I don't miss anything. Yeah, it looks like we've covered everything. So really our only hope at this point is VTNR, and it's not looking very good. It's trading below even its previous session high right now. So we can look at that on the 1 minute chart. Actually, let's go down to 2 charts to get rid of JMIA. Yeah, so this is just a bunch of choppiness. We really need to see quite a move, and there's not really a lot of volume in here. And this is on the first page of the screener of the laptop. So this is kind of the point that I tried to make earlier about the volume and why it's so important. So right now it has 1.5 million shares of volume, which sounds decent, but as far as it compares to the other small cap stocks that are trading right now, the number one stock, let me just show you this on the screener so that you can kind of follow along with what I'm saying. So here's VTNR. It's kind of smack in the middle of the first page of the screener, so that looks promising, but it really isn't relative to what else is going on, because you can see here CGEM has 9 million shares, basically 7 million shares, 5.7 million shares, so on and so forth. So there's many stocks that are 2, 3, 4, 5 times the volume that VTNR is right now. And that's just the small cap stocks. I'm sure there's a lot of other stocks that are outside of the small cap criteria that are trading with much more, probably over 10, maybe 20 million shares right now. We can look at the markets page and see what the most active stock is trading with. Look at this, 123 million shares on this penny stock. So that's where the volume is today. We do not go after the highest volume stock. That's not part of the strategy, and that's not part of the trading plan. We're only looking at stocks that meet the small cap criteria and are in our price range, which is $5 to $100 per share. You can see this is a 16-cent stock. So, and I think this one moved up a lot overnight, and now is actually, even though it looks like the percent change is positive, which it is compared to yesterday, I think this thing is losing money for today. So that, just take that for what it is. I'm not trying to really say anything about penny stocks there, just that it's not part of our strategy. So it's not something that we look at. And the screener, see if anything has changed in that time period, since a lot has been changing after 10 o'clock. Just going through the ones with the percent change, since now I know they're all going to meet that 500,000 shares or more of volume criteria. You can see all the way down at the bottom they do. So we've looked at all of these, I believe. BBBY we have not looked at, so we can pull that up on a chart. All right, make sure that it's up on the daily chart. Nope, it's trading down below the 200 MA, so it has to be ignored. And that's pretty much it, guys. It's already just about 10:20 here, 10:18 to be exact, but there's only 12 more minutes, less than 12 minutes for me to be triggered into a trade, and it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. We can look at VTNR, which is just going sideways. The volume has just probably left this thing. Now, one thing I've noticed, if you're listening right now, you may have noticed it as well, is that the first 1 minute candle in Webull doesn't always seem to be accurate. Let's take a look at the SPY, for example, for that point. I mean, you could see it here on the volume page. It's just that 100,000 shares on the first 1 minute candle doesn't sound that crazy, but I don't think that's accurate here. If you look at the volume candle here on SPY, you have 3.1 million shares there. This is on the first 1 minute candle. And then you have 640,000 shares on the next 1 minute candle. So I'm just not so sure that the volume of the 1 minute candle is always accurate on Webull. I mean, what we're seeing here on these small cap stocks seems a little bit more realistic, but I've just noticed that in my years of trading with Webull that first 1 minute candle of volume has always been pretty crazy. So the only reason I brought that up is because I wanted to show how kind of the volume is dwindling here, but I was going to ignore that first 1 minute candle. And in this case, actually, the second 1 minute candle has more volume. So that's interesting. So 280,000 shares here on the second candle. And you could just see the volume kind of fading away. We can look at the 5 minute chart to get kind of a bigger picture of that. And this is where trader discipline comes into play. I mean, look at how the volume is fading here, and then kind of comes back up there a little bit. So we may see something. I don't know. But again, this is the 5-minute chart, so the volume should be much higher. But look over here, BBBY, you see it taking off, and wow, it looks like, such a great trade, and you're missing out on a great opportunity. Maybe if this, kind of a thing meets your criteria, but this does not meet our trading plan criteria or strategy. If I took a trade on this, even if it worked out, if it went to 2R, 3R, 5R, doesn't matter. It's not going to help our statistics that we're trying to collect for this small cap test. And as I said at the beginning of the video, we are 90 trades into this thing right now. No reason to mess it up at this point. We just have 10 trades to go, and we will be finished with this thing and be able to trade full position size. So we just need to keep going the way we are and be disciplined and stick to the plan. So I'm going to wrap up the video right now. There's only 9 minutes left of trading. I will keep this open just in case anything gets triggered, and I'll keep looking at the screener until 10:30, and I'll let you know if anything pops up, but it just doesn't look like it. It's 4 days in a row without a trade, which is pretty crazy. I can't remember a time when that happened, when I was trading these plans that gave me specific criteria. So tomorrow we will go over the statistics. And well, I'm going to say that this is the summary of the video right here so that I can direct people toward the end of the video if they don't want to watch the whole thing. But basically, today was another no trade day. We had our eye on the small cap screener all morning, and we checked every single stock that met our screener criteria, and only one of them met our daily chart criteria, and that was VTNR. So, and we can't just trade things randomly. We have to have all of our criteria met. As I'm saying this, BYND is starting to creep up and meet our criteria, so we can pull that up and take a look at it in just a moment here. But I just want to go through and make sure nothing else has popped up. BBBY we were looking at, VTNR we have up, and that should be about it. Everything else is going to be below the first page of my screener. So let's take a look at BYND, and then we'll wrap this up if there is nothing on the chart. If you want to know why I'm rejecting BBBY, just scroll back to an earlier place in the video. So BYND is trading below the 200 MA, so we have to reject that as well, no matter what it's doing during the day. And that has been kind of the theme for the week. This is the 4th day in a row that we haven't been able to take a trade because nothing met all of our criteria. And that's something you have to be strict about. You have to define the criteria that need to be met in order for you to take a trade. And if every single one of those criteria is not met, I recommend highly not to trade it. Don't say, well, 3 out of the 4 things I'm looking for are happening, so let me just take a trade and see what happens. Now, if that trade works out, you know nothing about your strategy. And if that trade fails, you still know nothing about your strategy because that wasn't your strategy. It was a piece of your strategy. So that is my argument for having, if you're not going to wait until all of the criteria are met to take a trade, then whatever you're foregoing, then maybe don't make that part of your criteria, if that makes sense. So the only data that is going to be helpful and meaningful to you are the trades that you take that meet 100% of your criteria and 100% of your strategy. So that's pretty much it. And we only have here about 6 minutes left into the trade day before I quit trading. I always stop at 10:30 every single day. So I'm just going to leave you with, as always, go into every single trade with a plan and stick to that plan no matter what. Always take your stop losses, honor your profit target, and in the long run, you should be green. Take care.